never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys. Miss Liz in the house. That's right. And I have the incredible D.A. Murray in the house. And we're going to be talking about her incredible book, Domino's Ascensions. And we're going to be talking about her tea. And her tea today is resilience, intentional, and long game. That is the tea we are serving in this house. We do not serve a beverage. We serve storytelling, words, books, and all of the incredible services that all of my guests have. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. We're going to get you over to all those platforms, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those podcast apps, Podbean, Listen Notes, Spotify. There's something coming with Shopify with Miss Liz. I've been saying that for the last 3 days. I don't know what is going on, but maybe there's something coming. Wink, wink. I don't know, but we'll see. Let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro, and let's get DA in here and let's spill some tea and have some fun today. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real-life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I, Miss Liz, is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories invite us to think deeper and creativity opens the door to new worlds. Today's guest is someone who understands the power of imagination and the role storytelling plays in shaping how we see ourselves and the worlds around us. Please join me in welcoming D.A. Murray, author and creator storyteller, whose work brings readers into engaging worlds filled with meaning, reflection, and adventure. Through writing, D.A. Murray explores the human journey, the choices we make, the challenges we face, and the courage it takes to move forward when life presents uncertainty. Storytelling becomes a space where imagination and reality meets, allowing readers to reflect on their own experiences while exploring new possibilities. So grab your cup and lean in. Today's Tea Time is about creativity, storytelling, and the power of words to transport us beyond the ordinary. And let me get DA in here and let's spill some tea together. Welcome, DA.
Hi, how are you?
I am good, and you're good as well today, so that is good. So, DA, let's start with who you were as a little girl and who you are now as a grown woman.
Absolutely. You know, when I was a little girl, I grew up as an only child for most of my younger years until about 7 years old. And I have a brother. But we really did grow up in, kind of different households to some degree. And so different experience, different households, but we were always very close. And I would say one of the things that was common, I think, at least in my family, was that I had several mothers, and fathers. You have such a broad family, and there's so many different people that step in and really do raise you and really teach you, about valuable life lessons. And I would have to say, as an adult, I think that's still the same. Friends, family, colleagues, people are always out here teaching you a lesson, bringing you forward in life. So I would say those were kind of the consistencies between then and now.
So, DA, today as a woman, what have you learned about yourself growing up in all those different homes?
Yeah. I would say probably the main thing I've learned is I've learned just how incredibly strong and resilient I am. You don't know how resilient you are until you go through it. And, with each challenge, regardless of how hard it is, the one thing that I've always been able to go back to is to say, well, I remember when I went through one particular situation and somehow I landed on my feet. And I'm going to land on my feet this time too. Don't know how, but it's going to happen, right? So that was something that I really did discover about myself. And it's continued to play a very major role in the way I see myself, the way others see me, and what I think is really important to put forth in the work that I write.
So sharing that with all of the listeners and myself, how does that help with your storytelling when you're writing your books?
I would say that it's important. I like to write about personal challenges as well as societal challenges and how individuals balance the two. And so that's one major piece of it. And I also think that there's always a lesson to be learned. There's no such thing as the right answer or the wrong answer. It's just a journey that we take. And so none of my characters are perfect. They move through life with the information that they have, doing the best that they can. And sometimes they're successful and sometimes they fail. But that's life, right? So
yeah. That's why I went deep with your tea, because I wanted to know how the storytelling and how your life, because your stories are based on challenges and personal choices in your story. So I'm going to bring up your book so you can share a little bit about the book, the cover, and how it all came together. And then we're going to talk a little deeper about this book. So
sure.
There's the incredible book. So do you want to share about the cover first and how it all came together?
Sure. So the story Dominion Ascension, it's really about the rise of a new nation. It's about United States, essentially about 30 years into the future. So it's near future. And at this time, women are in control. And there is a new flag. The flag is the butterfly, hence what you see here in front of you. And it really becomes a symbol of rebirth, freedom, transcendence. And so that's really what this particular story is about. It's about the history of how Dominion came into being. And now that women are in control, what are the choices that they're making? And what are some of the things that are front and center, incredibly critical to driving the society? And what that is the technology. It plays a very significant role in how men and women relate, work. It's a very core part of it, but it's also something that creates certain barriers and infrastructure that is challenging and very provocative at the same time.
So is there any romance in this book?
Yes, there is romance. That is a subplot.
So is it a juicy romance or is it a semi romance?
It's juicy from the standpoint that the scenes that are there are very intriguing, to say the least. There was a few very good scenes, and I think it leaves you wanting to know how some of these relationships are going to evolve. But again, I think the romance is necessary because, again, this is a reflection of life. And so all of these aspects of life, including romance, are part of the overall storytelling.
Well, I love it. I love when there's a good, juicy romance in a book. It keeps you engaged, right? So, how do you create your characters, DA?
I think I start really from memories and experiences. And what is it that I really want to convey? I knew pretty early on as I was writing this novel that I wanted there to be a social statement about, women and men, about the use and abuse of power. I wanted to be able to look technology right in the face and say, what is it that actually helps move us forward from a humanitarian perspective, and what takes us back? So that, the effect of technology on humanity is a big part of this book. But another big part of the book, and you mentioned this a little bit at the very beginning of the show, is about the relationship between a mother and a daughter. And this was a very important piece for me personally, because there were aspects of the mother-daughter relationship that reflected my own life. The desire to want to be seen independently, and also to be appreciated for the choices that I was making as an adult. The need for me to get to a point where I was not consistently looking for my mother's approval, and I was going to stand in my truth and feel good about the choices that I was making. And so the whole unraveling and then kind of rebirth of the relationship between the protagonist, Danny, and her mother, Linda, is a major core part of this story, from beginning to end.
I like that you put that into the book, because there's a lot of relationships out there where daughters and mothers struggle, right? Mm-hmm. Our mothers kind of tell us how to be, how to act, how to, make our choices, and thereafter they're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have made that choice for my daughter. Like picking a man that we need to love or something, right? Like picking our romances and all that good stuff. DA, I want to talk about your tea, because the tea that you gave me was resilience, intentional, and long game. Why those 3 words for your tea?
Yeah. Well, I think resilience is definitely there because, as a female who has really, for the most part of my life, I, really had to, strike out on my own and do a number of things on my own. I've been very fortunate and blessed to have, a great family. But I think that I've made certain choices that probably weren't typical. I mean, I've made choices to move away from home, at a fairly early age, like when I was in college, moved away and then moved further away. I started in California. Now I'm here in Illinois. I wanted to travel. I wanted to have a very robust type of career. So I was traveling internationally. I really wanted to be very firmly entrenched in my career and how it was evolving. And I've done that. I didn't want to be necessarily tied down in terms of if I wanted to get up and move somewhere else, I wanted to have that option. So I very much have lived in a way that has been very, very intentional to my spirit. I'm very much of a free spirit, and that's just how I am. And contrary to what, my mom may have wanted for me, settle down and have kids and all that. That just wasn't something that felt genuine for me.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't your cup of tea, right?
Nope.
It was
No.
your own journey that you needed to do.
Mhm.
And I love Free Spirits because, you know, that's when we really do what is in our hearts and our purpose. And some people might not understand, even the ones that are close to us. We have a question here for you, DA, that just came in, and I'd like to get it out. Such an inspiring conversation. How did DA Murray come up with with this concept?
Mm. Well, I have to say it was a number of things. I think one of them was I definitely wanted to tell a story about life lessons I have learned. So that was one component of it. So, you know, lessons around power, around learning how to come into my own as a woman, um, learning how to really have a tremendous sense of, you know, sense of self, despite what was happening around me. So that was one component of it. The other component of it was that, you know, I have always been incredibly involved with various organizations, whether it was Boys and Girls Club of America or women's shelters, just anything that really brings me close to working with women and helping them just out of challenging situations, right? It's all about uplifting the feminine spirit. I very much have been a part of that for a number of years. And one of the things I wanted to do was portray a society where women were in control of everything. And that's not, that in and of itself is not a unique concept. But what is a unique concept is this idea of how humanity changes with the introduction of things such as technology, how role reversals can essentially impact the perception of power, and what do you have to do to retain power. So there's a lot of, I think, nuances to how people or humanity evolves in this very different type of society. And it's taken from a number of different angles, which I think is really interesting as well. So it's not just the protagonist, but you also see the points of view of some very interesting people with different backgrounds, but nonetheless are dealing with the same issues, but just choosing to go about it in a different way.
Well, it sounds like a really interesting book. We have a comment here. This book sounds incredible. Where can we read it?
Well, one of the things you can do is go to my website. It's damurrayofficial.com. And on that website, you'll find where you can purchase the book. It's on bookstore.org, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart. It's a number of different places you can purchase the book. And there's also a book club section. So whether you want to read the book solo or you want to read it with a group of friends, doesn't matter. There's a fantastic book club kit. And it doesn't just include conversational questions. It also includes, there's a great cocktail menu and a culinary menu, because there's various cocktails and menu items that are mentioned throughout the book that are brought to life via the book club kit. There's games. And so it really is an exciting piece of it that helps bring it together. And there's also an AI component with the online on this particular author site where you can actually become introduced to some of the main characters in the book. So it's kind of a fun little AI journey that you can take along the way. So
I like that. It's different. I like different. This is why I bring all you incredible guests to this table, because you guys think outside of the box. I would have never thought of a book club kit with the cocktails and the menu and all of that. That kind of brings in the book a little bit, so people enjoy the book a little bit more and they want to read it. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's about creating an experience, right? I mean, you know, book clubs are great and conversation is great, but the more you can bring certain aspects of the book to the club, the more people get, I think, engrossed in the idea of it. And again, this is the first of 3 books, so a lot more to do.
So this is the first book.
Yes, it is.
So you have two other books that are coming. When are those ones coming?
They are coming soon.
Da, da, da.
Da, da, da. Yeah, exactly. Right. Right. Yeah. So working very hard to get these get everything out, but it's been exciting nonetheless.
So are those other two books going to be included in this book club book kit?
Oh, I'm gonna have a kit for each of the books
Oh,
and
I
an
like that.
expanded AI experience for each one. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it really is a great way to bring people into the world of Dominion. So that piece of it, I think, is also kind of unique. So
Let's talk about the name, because the name of the book, how'd you get that name?
I think I really wanted a name that really spoke to this idea of women being in control. And I wanted the name of this country, this society, to reflect that. So Dominion just made a lot of sense from that standpoint. The word ascension pertains to a actual annual event that takes place where the citizens of Dominion come together to recall their history, but then to also, gratify those who have been brave and continue to fight to keep the Dominion society alive and vibrant. So
I like it. I like the twists and the turns. We got some juicy romance going on. We got some menus and cocktails. We got a lot going on in this book. So how did you start your writing journey, DA?
Well, I've been writing most of my life. I mean, when I was, high school and so forth, I would write poems and short stories and so forth. And I think I started writing this manuscript when I had just gotten to a point where I just had something to say, and I really wanted to put something out there that was reflective of the experiences that I've lived, that I thought could be of value and interest to people who may be going through similar experiences. But I wanted to also tell a story about things that I strongly believe in, like, a woman's right to choose, a woman's right. And when I say choose, I mean choose her destiny. And to also talk about the things that really do impact how we are evolving as human beings, which is obviously the impact of technology and all of this. And I think at the same time, I really also wanted to address the role of men. And I love the fact that in the book Dominion, men are they're in a role where they don't have the choice. And what does that look like? And how are they actually dealing with that, right? And so I think it's been a really interesting set of conversations as I've gone to different book clubs. I do book club tours, so I go on either virtually, I'll attend, or in person, depending on location and timing. And so the conversations have been just enlightening, to say the least, but a lot of fun as well. And I think, some of the things that I think are so important when it comes to, this world we're talking about, or the society we're talking about, is control. And the idea that, control is not something that just all of a sudden happens one day. It is taken little by little until you look up and things are just not at all what you anticipated. So the desire or the tendency to just believe what you're told without having a true sense of, where did that come from? What was the source of that information? Why should I believe what I'm being told? And so those are the kinds of things that also come up in the book, is this whole idea of how do we really decide what is true? And based on that, what are the types of choices that people are going to make based on what they believe is true?
I like that you reversed it, because it just gives men an understanding of how us women feel.
Oh
you know,
yeah.
not having a choice. For how many centuries were women put in psychiatric wards because they didn't obey their husbands or their commands, you know? So you're in this book, you're kind of reversing it and giving a man an understanding of what women went through for centuries. You know, I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And it's really, there are certain times when I was writing the book, like for example, there is an organization called MAO, MAO, Men Against Oppression. And I mean, I'm sorry, I just, I'm like, this is too much, and the thing is that it's just, it's not to make fun. It's more to say, it's to lighten the load a little bit and say, this is a fiction story, but there are truisms in all of this, right? And so I really enjoy bringing some of these issues to light in a way that was non-threatening to people, so they could have those open conversations and really explore some of these, more meatier topics.
Absolutely. Like you're giving them a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's in a book, guys. Read the book. Like we have some questions that are coming in. I'd like to get those out to you.
Exactly. It's you're not voting on a ballot. You're just reading a book.
We're 30 years in the future. We're allowed to dream too. We're allowed to change destiny.
But see that's the thing is too. Even the question of, I know there's often been conversations where people have often said, oh my goodness, if the world was run by women, it would be so much better. And, all this. And one of the things that the book brings to question is that really true?
Yeah.
Right.
We don't
because
know.
We don't know that. And the reality is that it's about power, and it's about who has it, how they use it, and how they retain it. And so the reality is that there's just a lot of there's a lot of push and pull in this book around making choices, not just for oneself, but for the broader group of people, for society, and so what does that look like? Are the needs of the many, right, more important than the needs of the few? Do we, how do we as human beings, consider ourselves to be good citizens in a structure that we may not necessarily really believe in? Yeah. So there's just, it's just kind of it's something that really makes you kind of think about things in a different sort of way. And that's one of the things I really love about the book.
Well, we have a question here from Rochelle. How does tech influence your writing process?
Sure. Thinking about tech, I think one of the things is really thinking about it from the standpoint of the influence of tech is not always forward moving. It can also be backwards. And so I think that in working in tech and seeing how it influences human decision, but at the same time, I think it creates a constant set of dynamics around, when is too much? When is it too much? Yeah. Are there guardrails? Who determines what the guardrails are? Who's protected? Who's not protected? It's really, it's an incredibly interesting aspect, especially now, with the utilization of, Gen AI and the degree to which AI is being leveraged, not just by business, but also at home. The degree to which we look and, we type in a question and then we get an answer. And do we just kind of take that answer and go with and say, oh, that's it? No, not everything. Nothing is perfect. And the reality is that tech is basically formed and generated by humans. And humans can have a biased opinion. They can do that. And so, it's the guardrails. There are human guardrails around the evolution of technology. And so I think it's really interesting because it's almost like being in a fight against yourself. You know,
Yeah.
you're trying to advance, but at the same time, you want to catch up, and because you push things so far. But the reality is that, you know, I think that humanity really is ahead of things. And I think technology has to catch up with humanity, not the other way around.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that one. The next question that came in from Invest Talk is, how do you imagine future leadership evolving through storytelling?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great topic. Thank you for asking that. I think one of the things when I think about leadership and the ability to not just think about the here and the now, but to think about legacy and how your decisions impact the future. And I think that's an incredibly important aspect of when you talk about leadership and what it means and storytelling. So I'm not just thinking of telling a story with the impact of it being here and now. I'm thinking about how this is going to be perceived for, you know, years to come. I think the other thing is, from a storytelling perspective, I think there are certain aspects or ways that you, or storytelling techniques, I should say, that really do impact leadership. For example, the way you perceive yourself as a person on a team, or a leader of a team, for example, the way you perceive yourself can often be the way others perceive you or not. But the reality is that you have to perceive and see yourself in a very specific way, and you have to behave that way. You have to reflect that.
Yeah.
Because if you do not, then you're not able to kind of carry forward some of the things that you might envision for yourself. So the reality is that you create that reality, if you will, in your head first, and then you go forth and try to make it happen. And so I think that's one of the things that happens with storytelling is you have something in your head, you have something you want to bring to life. But in order to do that, you really have to see it and feel it and taste it and know it. And that's the same thing, I think, with leadership. And I don't think you can't be timid when
Yeah.
you are a leader. Timidity doesn't work. And I think the other part of it, you know, when it comes to being, very genuine, or, being transparent, all of those things are incredibly important. But I also think that you have to, with anything else, keep in mind how you are putting yourself out there, because the reality is that you can give too much of yourself as a leader. You can. And so you have to understand that it's got to be a give and a take. You can't just be giving all the time. So I really do believe in the importance of, I want to be fed as much as I want to feed.
I
people
like
around
that.
me. Mm-hmm.
Because we always are feeding everybody else that we forget ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be that way.
We have a question here for you, DA, and it is, how did the writer tech journey begin for you, from Clayton Jr.?
I guess really it was around, when I was writing, and I started meeting a number of other writers who were really interested in my perspective on tech, and how I was, thinking about it, and especially in a futuristic standpoint. And I think, one of the things that I was very clear about was saying, hey, it's really important to keep in mind that tech doesn't lead, humanity leads. It always does. And it's the choices that we make that infuse or embolden, or, invigorate or bring forth on the technology side. It's a child that is born out of humanity. And so I really started, meeting with different folks and talking about the role of technology in society and talking about things like the importance of knowing how you want to leverage it and controlling it as opposed to letting it kind of overtake overtake you and what you're doing. Because the reality is that you do have to question what is put in front of you. Not everything is, it might come out very easily. It looks easy. That's great. But you know what? Sometimes that information is correct. It has to learn. You have to test. You have to learn. You have to evolve, and it gets better. But it's like anything else. It's nascent and it's growing. It's a child, and you have to feed it. But it's not perfect. So I just think it's important to understand it's a tool, and but you are in control of how that tool has to be used and nurtured in your life.
I am so glad that you came to Tea Time. Like, we need more women like you speaking up and just being straightforward and saying, you know what, we're not perfect, but we're learning.
Yeah.
So we have a question here from, I'm going to say, is Slack Mac. I might not be pronouncing your name right, but what message do you want readers to take from this book?
I think one of the things I think is important to take from this book is the importance of never being afraid to search for the truth. This is something that you will see in the very beginning of the book, and it is a consistent thing throughout the book. The truth is important. Regardless of what we are seeing around us today, truth means something. And who defines that truth would probably be an interesting question to ask. And I think that's when it comes into, really being intentional and looking at what's going on around you and understanding that, for example, coercion, it doesn't announce itself, right? It arrives as concern, tradition, economics, protection. And the next thing you know, a very precious right has been taken from you. And so the search for the truth, standing up for the truth, and recognizing that you are entitled to that truth is something that I really want the story to convey.
And I say it all the time. The truth hurts, but we need to ask the truth. We need to question things. We can't just say, you know what? Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to do it. If it doesn't add up, ask questions. And that's why we have these open heart conversations on Tea Time, because we need the truth out there. And the truth is important. And sometimes it hurts. So you need to ask the truth. We have a question here for you, DA, is how do you connect with your audience through digital platforms?
Sure. So when I started writing Dominion, which was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, I really started engaging with folks on like Instagram and TikTok. And it was really, tell me a little bit about, tell me what you're writing. Tell me what you're reading. Why are you reading this? So it was really just trying to get to the human side of how people really do choose the types of books that they choose, whether it's for educational purposes or entertainment, whatever the case may be. And so that's DA Marie Official on IG, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And so that's where I really started, was engaging, talking about books. And then from there, I started talking to other writers. I started leveraging digital platforms like Threads, for example, was a great digital platform to engage with other writers and really understand, kind of what they were going through and really talk about, this incredibly, a fast evolving publishing industry. It's incredible what has happened over just the last 10 years. And so I would say that's really how I got started. And then from there, I just started doing some lives and started going to different events and engaging with folks. And obviously, like with you, Liz, the podcast, doing things to just talk about myself as a writer, but also about some of these different themes that I think are so important. We need to converse. We need to talk about, identity and love and loyalty, the things that really are at the center of what it means to be human. And we just sometimes just don't have that heart to talk about those things in the way that I think can really help us grow and learn.
And that's why I created this platform, is because I didn't want just a podcast. I really don't like the word podcast. I like the change makers. There are so many different change makers out there that are telling the future, sharing this future through books, through services, through programs, through their work, acting and all of that good stuff. And people are not listening to these stories. They're not having these heart-to-heart conversations. It's the latest fashion, latest gossip, latest this. Let's talk about the work and how the inner child came together to put this book together, because a lot of it comes from your challenges from life, like you mentioned right at the beginning of the show. And you created this book, and now you got some juicy romance going on. You got some tech, you got some woman power, you got futuristic in 30 years. Let's see if the changes actually happen. Go out and grab this book. I want to get this question out to you. How important is representation in
speculative fiction? Yeah.
My tongue doesn't twist that way, guys.
Well, I think anytime you are talking about diverse stories, then definitely representation is critical. That's part of what makes it so rich, right? And so I think it's incredibly important to bring that to the forefront, definitely. Another thing I want to note too about the Dominion, in addition to obviously some of the meaty areas that we've talked about thus far, and some of the love, the love story, there's also a lot of action and adventure. So some really exciting things that are happening, because it's a journey that the protagonist is taking. And I think that makes it a lot of fun. And, there are parts of the book, I can remember one part in particular. It probably was 4:00 in the morning, and I'm sitting in bed and I'm typing this scene, and I'm so into this scene. I'm just typing, and I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And I'm like, when you're typing it, like, keep going, that's just how into it I was. I could not wait to know what was going to happen. And so it's just really exciting. When you get that into it, you can get into the zone. And it's probably one of my favorite scenes of the book, quite honestly.
I love when writers get into their own story and they're like, what's going to happen next? And they're the ones writing it. They're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm writing it.
Yeah, I just wasn't typing fast enough. That's what was going on.
And that's what makes a good book, because you, the storyteller, is also excited about the story.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love it.
I was really there were parts of the book that I just absolutely loved, and I hated that the scene even ended, but the one thing
my scene.
I know, and with the next book I've been writing, and I've gotten to the point with the next book where I'm like, oh my God, like I literally, I was on a plane. I was flying from Las Vegas back to Chicago from a conference, and I'm on the plane. It's probably like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, well, you know what? Let me work on my, my manuscript. And I'm typing this. I'm writing the scene. Oh my God! I started crying. Then I started laughing. And then I said, oh my God. And I'm sitting here. The guy next to me probably thought I was crazy. No doubt. He probably thought I was a loon. But the scene was fabulous. And they'll tell you this, like writers will tell you this all the time. You'll write a scene and you'll think it's amazing, and you'll look at it like a week later and like, oh my God, this is trash. But no, I don't think that's going to happen with this scene. I really don't. I really felt good. But there was something so rich and so real, and the emotion was there, but then it was heart-wrenching. So when I can feel it like that in my bones, and I'm like, okay, this is a killer scene.
Oh, awesome. And that's a book too, and it's not even out, and she's giving us little dibs in it.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. But it's fun. And I love, I think someone asked earlier about like, how do you bring like storytelling together, like with what you do and leadership and all of that. And I can honestly say, since I have released my book, which was August of 2025, I can honestly say that there's something that has changed in me. Something has really changed. I feel like I have released the Kraken. Okay, like seriously. If you ever see, Clash of the Titans, the Kraken who comes out of the water, no, I feel like that. I feel so emboldened and so, like I feel like I had told the story, and I feel like it was so cathartic. And now I feel incredibly powerful. Like I feel like a powerful storyteller. And it translates into, the work that I do and the passion that I bring to what to just everything that I do now. And I just didn't even expect this to happen. It's been really a phenomenal experience on many levels. It's incredible.
Absolutely. Well, we have a question here. Well, we know that there's 2 more books coming out. She's working on them. She gave us a little dip about book number 2. So you can imagine what book number 3 is going to be. She's going to be on a train or somewhere, and she's going to be, oh no, oh my God. And the people that are going to be sitting around her are going to think you lost it again. But you know what? She's coming with some good stories. We got to get this book out there. Everybody go and grab a copy because it sounds juicy. I know I am. What's next after Dominion Ascension?
Dominion Ascension, Dominion Anarchy. That's what's coming next.
It's coming next. It's coming.
And
it's not stopping, guys. She's coming.
And it's really interesting because, like I had mentioned, maybe I mentioned a little bit earlier, Dominion Ascension is written in first person point of view. So it's all about really understanding the world, the society of Dominion through the eyes of the protagonist, Danny. The second book, Dominion Anarchy, is actually going to be third person, or it is third person point of view. It's a bigger book, and from the standpoint of what it's putting its arms around, it's all of society and what's happening in different parts of this, the society that's going on. So it's a big story, and it is really, it's a brave story, and it's so brave to the point where it actually made me a little nervous to like how to write such an incredibly brave and big story. And one of the things I got this amazing I take what is it called, Substack, and I subscribe to Veronica Roth, and she was talking about writing big. And one of the things that is so important to remember is that when you write big, you need to know when to write small, so that big really does feel that way to the reader and the writer. I loved that. And it actually changed my perspective as I was thinking about some of these incredibly intense scenes that are going on, and saying, when is it that I really want to bring it in, right? And focus on something, critical, that I want that experience to be there for that reader. And then when do I want to take it out so big that the reader goes, oh my God, you know what I mean? So yeah. That's the important thing, when you're writing, as a writer, you want to engage with other writers. You want to read, other books, because it enriches your ability to take what you see, what you hear, and redeploy it, or think about it in a way that works for the way you want to show up in your story and for your readers.
And that's something we don't really talk about, as writers. When to come big, when to go small, when to remove a scene, when we know when it's time. This is, and then we get mad at ourselves. Oh, well, we took this person out. Is it too soon? Is it too, and I think that's what you were saying earlier is, you write a scene and then you're like, oh, you read it a week later and you're like, oh my God, this is trash.
Yeah, it happens. It does. And that famous saying, don't be afraid to kill your darlings. So, when you're editing, I don't know, Dominion Ascension, it was probably went through about, I don't know, at least maybe 12 phases of editing and thousands and thousands of, rewrites and different things. But the point is that you can't be so committed to something that you are not afraid to just pull it out, if this doesn't work. So, and it can be hard sometimes, but I kill my darlings all the time. But it's okay, because I got 2 more books, right? So it's not like they can't come back later, Well,
you know what? In the future, we don't know if we come back, right? Like, so in book 2, is it still 30 years in the future, or are we jumping a little bit further in the future?
It's a little bit further, but not that much. Yeah, I really wanted this to be near future, because I wanted people to still feel like, wow, this could actually really happen. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to be imaginable, and not too far out there, right? And it also helps with having these very in-depth conversations, which is great. Another thing I wanted to achieve with this book.
Well, you know what? I'm super excited. Like, I'm going to grab a copy. I don't know about anybody who's listening, but I think y'all should go grab a copy, because I think just sitting and sharing a little bit of insight about book 1, and then you jumped into book 2. So we got to read the first one first before we get the second one.
Yeah. Well, fortunately enough, one of the perspectives I had to take in writing book 2, I'm writing it, even though it's a second book, it's written in such a way that if you don't read the first one and you come in on the second one, it's not like you're coming to the party and everybody knows the joke but you. It really is, it level sets you, in terms of what's going on. So that was important, to kind of treat it that way. So, but I'm excited. I write detailed drafts before I start writing scenes. And so I wrote book 2, the detailed draft in book 2 in 2024. And I wrote, the book 3 was like, the detailed draft was done in last year. So, it's like, come on, bring it along. I'm working hard. I got a full-time job. I work during the day. I write at night, and on the weekends. There's only so much I can do and still have a life, right?
Well, DA, when you're at work, do you ever think of a scene?
Oh my God, all the time. All the time.
She's working and all of a sudden she's like, oh yeah.
I would be in some business meeting, and somebody's talking about something, and I'm going, that's how I can use that. That's how I can do that escape scene, or, whatever. Yeah,
I'm escaping this meeting right now.
Of course. Yeah. Well, that's one thing about being a creative. It's on 24/7. You can't help it. So
I love it. Like, I can just picture being in a meeting with you and all of a sudden you look over, she's not even here anymore.
I am present, but when something strikes me, like if something I hear or see, I'm like, oh, that would be really cool. I have to think about how I would do that in this particular scene. I like that, So, and it's funny because when I write, I imagine going through the action itself. So if I say, that he uncoiled his neck, I'm thinking about what does it mean to uncoil your neck? What does it mean to have, to have, you know, your eyes are bloodshot, like they look like bloodshot, spider webs or something. Like, like this whole idea about when you talk about when you're describing something, how do you bring it to bear? So I use everything around me. I'm walking down the street, I see something, I see a leaf and I'm like, oh my God, look at the angle of that. Like I could talk about how the leaf looks as it's falling off a tree. Like, oh my God, yeah, all the time. All the time.
I love it. Because sometimes those leaves, they fall really wicked ways, right? They have like a nice little swirl and a little wiggle to them. And you're just like, ooh.
Yeah. Like, red and gold confetti, and it just, there's so many things you can do with just the things around you. But in order to do that, you have to be aware, right? You Absolutely. Have to be looking and paying attention. And so I think that the awareness is a part of what is so critical, I think, when you are creating, in your head.
Absolutely. So DA, what do you have any book events coming up, book signings, any of those things that people should look out for?
I actually have a schedule on my my author site, damurrayofficial.com. And I do also do virtual and in-person book club appearances. So I've been doing probably about 4 or 5 of those a month. Gotta slow down a little bit.
But it's all that cocktail and menu.
I know. It's like I have friends that call and say, hey, let's go I gotta do a book club. When are you not doing a book club is when they call now. They're like, when are you not doing a book club? When can you come out? When can you come out and play? So, but it's so much fun. It's just so much fun. And, but yeah, I do that quite a bit because again, I'm trying to balance a full-time job, a very demanding full-time job where I do travel as well. And then I've also got another book I got to get out, so I have to really, do certain things that meld well with my schedule, like, doing this, this talk today with you or this tastemaker. This is something I can do like on a lunch break, and then go back to work, that type of thing. So that's how I make it work. It's hard sometimes, but that's the only way I can make it work because it gives me such joy and it really gives me that extra creative spark that I need. So
I love that you said tastemaker. We're tasting DA right now.
Please do. And if you do buy the book and you love it, please, please, please write a review, wherever you get it from, write a review. Reviews are incredibly important for emerging authors. That's what we live and die off of, so I always say that if you have the time, I would really appreciate that as well.
Well, what's your final message to all the listeners tonight?
I think my final message is really, we live in such a busy time. Our lives are busy. We've got family, friends, work. We've got so many things going on. So I know that whenever you take time out of your schedule to devote to anything, whether it is reading or writing or, going to an art show or listening to music, whatever it may be, I just want to say it's important to feel that it's something of value and something that's worth your time. And I can honestly say Dominion is worth your time. It is worth looking at it, reading it, talking about it with friends, because I think it's really going to bring forth some very fruitful conversation we need at a time like this, right? At a time of incredible change. And so that's what I would say is I hope that you feel it is worth your time. And I hope that you come away really knowing that it's about understanding and knowing the truth and what you choose to do with it.
Nope.
Excuse me. That was like, hey.
First I was like, what?
It was like, hey, you have a meeting in 5 minutes.
Well, DA, I really want to just thank you for joining me today on Tea Time. And I'm so glad that we got to reschedule this Tea Time because this was an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
I'm just going to do a wrap up and then I'm going to let you go because I know you do have a meeting and we were just taste making and we were making amazing stuff here. Well, what a thoughtful and engaging conversation. DA, thank you for reminding us that stories are more than entertainment. They are reflections of the human experience, offering lessons, inspiration, and sometimes even a mirror into our own lives. This afternoon, we were reminded that creativity is a powerful force. When writers share their imagination and ideals, they invite readers to explore new perspectives and think differently about the world around them. To everyone listening, here is a little food for thought to carry with you after this tea time. Every story we read, hear, or share has the power to change how we see the world, and sometimes how we see ourselves. Until our next cup shared, keep reading, keep imagining, and keep celebrating the stories that connect us all. And I will see everybody tomorrow at 7 p.m. and a rescheduled tea time. Check out Miss Liz's Facebook page. You will see when that is rescheduled. And I really enjoyed this conversation. So thank you so much, DA.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.